Another court case happening elsewhere.
Yeah, in my hometown of Verulam. That's where it is. 19 people with links to the Verulam mosque attack and a string of arson attacks in Durban are due back in court today. Now, they face several charges, including murder, attempted murder, extortion, kidnapping and arson. Yesterday, security was tight in the area surrounding the Verulam Magistrates Court as the suspects made their first appearance. Now, Desan Tatia joins us from outside court this morning. Desan, a very good morning to you. Just a very brief idea of what actually happened in court yesterday?
Well, Yuveka, very little happened in court yesterday, but it was definitely a long wait. That appearance happening much later in the day. And as you know, it was held in camera, so information that was coming out of those proceedings was very limited. In fact, that's been the nature of this entire investigation as well, with all of the comments now coming directly from the Hawks. They have been briefing the media on the goings-on from the arrest now to the court case as well. As we understand it, the reason why the case has carried on into a second day, which is today, is because there was a need for interpreters to be present in court for those proceedings to continue. But as we understand it, it appears that this case will be postponed because there's still quite a bit of investigation that needs to be done. This is something that police have been looking at for about 4 months or so, since that first incident that we saw at the Verulam mosque, where it was there was an incendiary device found that was preceded by that attack where one person was killed in a stabbing there.
There's, 19 people since then arrested. What do we know, if anything, about these suspects? Were they rivals? Was there an issue where we know all of this started at that mosque in Ottawa?
There's very little known about the identities of those people, and that is the way that the Hawks want to keep it for now. That the reason why they're keeping this being so secretive about this and about the identities is because there's still an identity parade that needs to be held in order to link these people conclusively to certain instances and certain incidents that took place over these past few months. So what we do know at this point is from the Hawks statement that they've given us, it seems like the motive is extortion. That is one of the charges that this group is facing. As we understand it, they were trying to extort money from some of these businesses, but I guess the question then is, what is the link to the Verulam attack? Now, those are some of the details that we are hoping will come out in court. In fact, the Hawks spokesperson, the national spokesperson, Brigadier Molautsi, will be here later. It's also one of the things that we're hoping to chat to him about on the other side of these proceedings today.
And at the time of the attacks, Desan, you're aware of all the fears, all the stories about terrorist groups. Could this be, terror cells operating in the country, operating specifically there in those parts of Durban? Any talk of that, or has that been completely ruled out now?
It seems like that has been ruled out for now, and extortion is the key term being used here as a motive for these attacks. You write about the fear. It was a time of uncertainty in Durban between May and about the last of those confirmed devices that were covered, or rather were recovered, was towards the end of July as well. And they were found, as you know, at various Woolworths stores. They were also found inside malls and on the side of the road as well. And it was also a time where not just these confirmed incendiary devices were found, but it was also a time where police were battling with a number of hoaxes, and they were getting calls almost every other day saying that a device had been found, and that led to many delays in services that were being provided at malls. Even the police station, the Phoenix police station, was one of those places where a device was allegedly planted, but that also turned out to be a hoax. So it's been quite a difficult few months for police, but after all of that, those 19 people in court and the possibility of more arrests to find more people that may be linked to these attacks.
Now, Desan, if we say that the motive possibly being extortion being the major one, do we have any information? Do we know whether anybody was asked for money, whether anybody on the other side of the attacks, not the suspects, but the other side where these attacks were carried out? What has led to this, to the suspicion or to extortion being the possible motive? Was anybody asked for money? Had anybody given money to anyone during these attacks?
It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there has been no indication of that. It seems like there That's a logical question, isn't it? Because if there is extortion, one would expect that there had been requests for money. Police are not confirming that just yet in terms of whether any money was exchanged or whether there was any formal request for that. You'll remember that even the stores that were being targeted at the time, and in this case Woolworths as well, were also not saying too much in terms of what the nature of this or what the motive could be. They were just treating it as these incidents that were related to security in their stores. As a result of that, they had improved security. Even today, if you walk into some of the Woolworths stores, you'll find that there are searches being done at the entrance as you get in as well. So these are some of the details that one would imagine would emerge in court. It's unlikely that it would necessarily come out today, but probably later in the proceedings and maybe even when a bail application is launched for these suspects.
Certainly lots of questions still remain over this. Thanks very much, Des and Tatia. Outside the Verulam Magistrates Court, 19 people linked to the mosque attack there and other arson attacks around Durban due back in court today with interpreters.